The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Good generic time of the day, wherever you are. And thank you for tuning in to The Blockchain Show. Today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, which is the gaming industry. I've got a guest today from Polyient Games, the Director of Innovation, Craig Russo. Craig, welcome to The Blockchain Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ethan.
My pleasure. It's great to have you here. Why don't we begin with you telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be aware of the blockchain?
Yeah, so my story is a little unique, as I think a lot of people will claim in this space. I actually come from a neuroscience background. Made my way into biotechnology out in Boston. Was in the venture creation game for a bit, and then caught the crypto bug, which led me into the industry via Sludge Feed, which is still running and very popular crypto media outlet, which me and my partner Tom Stankwich launched in 2017, and so. Really, that was my first real foray into blockchain gaming, was the coverage of both, the cryptocurrency excitement as well as our focus on kind of the esports and gaming side. And so I was actually able to observe how blockchain gaming really took off with the first real mainstream event with CryptoKitties. And then, obviously throughout the 2018, 2019 build years, as we'll probably look back on them as, really saw some of the exciting work being done from a blockchain game development perspective. And so that's what really, ultimately led me to Polyient and Polyient Games to explore these very innovative startups and really help facilitate the growth of the non-fungible token market.
Yeah, wow. A lot of good stuff there. When you were talking about your background, did you say neuroscience?
Yes. So I was a neuroscientist. I was a little bit of a nerd and a technical nerd in that way. And so I think that inspiration and looking at complex systems ultimately led me to some of the more exciting cryptocurrency projects and helped me segue my way into this industry. So yeah, I think everyone's story is very unique in this space. So I think mine's nothing too special.
No, that's cool. Yeah, it just reminds me of one of my high school buddies. He got hardcore addicted to video games in college, and I didn't even know that was possible. But his mom told my mom that he dropped out because of his video game addiction.
Ooh.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then I talked to his roommate, and he's like, no, it was severe. This guy would stay up for days playing video games. But that's probably a topic better for.
Well, and it's interesting too, because what used to be addiction now can be an entire career path. So I think it's all about timing. I think some of us are a little aged out from the new wave of esports and streaming. So timing makes everything, right?
For sure, man. Gaming and blockchain seem to go hand in hand pretty well. There's been plenty of movies in the pop culture where different currencies are being used for like virtual reality and different sort of things like that. And I'm kind of always impressed at how the technology's already there. I think it, and then I look and it's like, oh, this is already being developed. So that's why I was excited to talk to you today. Hopefully you can tell us a little bit more about Polyient Games.
Sure, yeah. So Polyient Games itself is a spin-off of Polyient Labs, which is a well-established incubator program for early-stage blockchain startups. And so really the inspiration for Polyient Games came from the work that we've done with early-stage startups and really identifying the non-fungible token or NFT market as one of the most high potential that's currently available in this industry. And so we created Polyient Games as a dedicated investment firm that's really focused on NFT startups that are helping really build both the infrastructure and the application layers that will really take the NFT asset class to the scale and size that we really envision it being. And you look at some of the comparables in the real world, whether it's collectibles, in-game currencies that you see in like Fortnite. This is a multi-billion-dollar market, and I think the technology is enabled with the blockchain integration, which I'm always a blockchain skeptic. Does something really need blockchain? Can it be done without it? I think with NFTs, a lot of those hesitancies and fluff use cases kind of fall to the wayside. And so with Polyient Games, we're very much interested in helping support these early stage startups. And that's, A, through direct investment and support. And B, we actually are introducing the Polyient Games ecosystem, which is really a third party driven social collaborative ecosystem that's actually built around a NFT marketplace and a in-game currency and NFT adjacent focused decentralized exchange, both products that Polyient Games is actually developing in-house. And so what we're really interested in doing is helping facilitate the user aggregation that's really required for blockchain gaming and the NFT startups that we see today to really take off. Because as a lot of blockchain dApps and games in particular are suffering from a great deal of fragmentation in the market, which is only becoming more and more difficult to navigate with increasing gas prices on Ethereum and other macro uncertainties that we're facing during these uncertain times. So what we really hope to do is to augment our investment activities with this third party ecosystem, which we're really pegging as an open collaborative environment where we don't want to put, very strict or stern restrictions on anyone that enters. And so essentially any team that we select to enter the ecosystem can do so without restrictions and can navigate it however they like. And so we're developing a number of dedicated features that would really, help to support the growth of some of these early stage startups. And to that point, we're actually introducing a dedicated non-fungible token called PGFKs, or Polyient Games Founders Keys, which essentially work to help establish our early community. And so we're doing a sale of those in the coming weeks here, where it's essentially a membership and rewards token that gives holders a lifetime list of perks. And so that's our way of really kind of kickstarting that aggregation and beyond that, exploring unique DeFi applications, which I really think are going to be integral for the this play to earn type movement where playing the game you can earn real world returns. And so I think a lot of the concepts that we're seeing in DeFi are going to begin to merge with some of this blockchain gaming and NFT excitement.
Yeah, speaking about the younger generation and about timing, so that's something that's super interesting, is how a person can play video games and make money. That was almost like a dream when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. It would definitely make our parents less angry at us, right?
Yes, absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about this emerging ecosystem, because I know that there's some kind of basic use cases happening out there already for different skins and that sort of thing. But what is it going to look like in the years to come?
Yeah, so I think the idea of having interoperable in-game items is kind of that ultimate Ready Player One type vision that we've all strived for. Where I think that the end, that's definitely the end goal. I think some of the reality associated with that is that there are significant technical and just general usability barriers that are associated with that. This can be everything from the difficulties of navigating a Web 3.0 wallet for users to the complexities associated with the design and integration of items across games. And so really what we've seen is, to date, looking at blockchain gaming specifically, is that a lot of the cool kind of Ready Player One concepts have been really driven by one-off collaborations. And so with the Polyient Games ecosystem, that's really what we hope to help, facilitate, to help reduce some of those barriers to build out that ultimate vision. And it's not going to be something that comes overnight by any means, but I think having more and more unifying umbrella type layers to this process will help ultimately bring more innovation that would otherwise be missed out on if we just all go this by ourselves. Because obviously, blockchain gaming is a very collaborative and community driven concept in of itself. And so I think there needs to be resources and tools that help facilitate that vision for the developers that are, really in the trenches now. And I will say, the teams that we've worked with and, teams that we've backed, it's just an incredible tenacity of delivering, products that are highly innovative without, much early stage, fundraising or major token sales that we saw in some of the earlier ICO projects. And so that's really also what drew us to the space. Is just the nature of some of these early builders that are bootstrapping and taking things to the next level with minimal resources. And that's always what you want to look for in a founder partner.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. Like I said at the beginning, I've always had a soft spot for just the gaming industry. I know that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's said to be recession-proof. I don't know if that's true nowadays, or it certainly seems to be pandemic-proof, especially with online gaming services.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
How do you think that this is going to evolve with blockchain? Because I know you mentioned earlier that not every application needs blockchain, and I think it's good to be skeptical, especially after the whole ICO years that you mentioned. Can you speak to any trends emerging in the gaming industry outside of just blockchain?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing this. When we look at kind of the AAA publishers, some of the Epic Games types, we're seeing the move towards more unique ways of connection. Essentially, I think the initial wave of that was exciting was obviously the cross-play functionalities, where hey, if I jump on my PS4 or I jump on my PC, I can play with my friends. And so that was really kind of the first major way of like, hey, the consoles, the PCs, the developers, that there might not be long-term siloing after all. And I think as we see some of the groups like Ubisoft looking at ways in which they can further put the power back into the gamers, I think Epic Games, as I mentioned, is building out this unique multiverse, leveraging Fortnite, and ultimately looking at digital licensing of games, being across different stores, which was just recently announced, which is very exciting. A lot of these concepts, while kind of share the same ethos of blockchain gaming, don't all necessarily require blockchain to do so. And I think that's a reality that a lot of builders in the space need to come to terms with, is that it's not necessarily the solution for everything. And so, when we work with teams or through Polyient Labs or Polyient Games, we really want to sit down with them and try to understand. It's like, do you need a blockchain for this? Is this something that you can get? Is this just adding a layer of complexity that is giving you a few buzzwords, but that doesn't necessarily need to be done. But to that point, I think there are a lot of exciting use cases that blockchain can help facilitate at scale that the more of these centralized approaches might not help facilitate for long. And at the end of the day, the wave and the movement of blockchain gaming is going to be driven by the gamers themselves. It's the idea of having real world ownership, true ownership of your in-game items that you can ultimately have control over reselling, secondary markets, and transfers. And so any big movement is going to require, it's going to be gamer driven, because at the end of the day, publishers have a great system. Mainstream publishers have a great system already in place where, they essentially control the capital flows from user to distribution on their end. So essentially, there's very little incentive for mainstream publishers at this stage to really put the time and effort into these new technologies, especially given the how complex and high pressure the internal engines are of some of these publishers that are spitting out games yearly or bi-yearly. At the end of the day, I think the reliance on saying, hey, eventually there's going to be NFTs in Fortnite or NFTs in Call of Duty, I think that's an incorrect assumption to make. And that's not something that we're, as Polyient Games, waiting to have happen before driving innovation. So I think there's a lot of cool things that can be done, even on the indie gaming side, that ultimately can help establish a beachhead of blockchain within gaming that will have will pay dividends for years to come. But at the end of the day, we are much more interested on how do we make the NFT asset class as accessible and as liquid as possible, so that the users in the cryptocurrency community, who a high percentage of them are gamers, feel comfortable about making the shift over to the NFT market. And B, how do we leverage that to establish functional games that are not limited by the lack of scalability associated with some of these blockchain networks? And so there's a lot of unique approaches and models that some early adopting games have done. I'll name some names. Axie Infinity has done a fantastic work by Sky Mavis, the team, for essentially establishing some of these DeFi concepts inside of their game. We're backers of Blockade Games, the team behind the upcoming MMO Neon District. Again, a lot of strong technical and economic development on the back end there for years. This is stuff that happens overnight. Developing games is tough, and now developing games with blockchain and economies and communities built in from day one, it's even tougher. So, it's definitely a heavy lift, but I think it's a walk before you run type of approach that we're trying to instill in the companies that we back.
It's got to be a lot of work, and I imagine that the PlayStation Network, for example, it might be harder to get on board than say like a developer who can get a game onto a console. So how are you implementing this interoperability and with the non-fungible tokens? What's your vision into actually getting it into the players' hands?
Yeah, so essentially, I think at the end of the day, if we're talking about mainstream gamers and mainstream end users, the path forward there is essentially masking the blockchain layer, right? If someone has to go through and download MetaMask, send Ethereum to their wallet, connect their MetaMask to the app, all that is just technical barriers that are just beyond reasonable for mainstream gamers to adopt. But with any technology, those layers will become more and more masked over time. And at the end of the day, once it's a seamless process that you don't even know you're interacting with blockchain to do so, that's what's really going to take things to the next level. And I think we're starting to see some of those elements creep in with the latest release by Dapper Labs, the Top Shots, the NBA game. I don't know if you ever had a chance to go through their UI. That's an absolutely fantastic example of how to get mainstream users into the NFT market. And now what we're really interested in kind of this interoperability as you described, and from a Polyient Games perspective, is how can we facilitate liquidity? And by liquidity, I think there's a few different approaches. One being the in-game currencies and figuring out ways in which we can tokenize those and have those representations on the blockchain, where essentially if I earn a in-game currency in a game, I can send that to a secondary marketplace to sell it. And so what we're hoping to do with Polyient Games, and specifically with our decentralized exchange, is to build out liquidity pools and trading pairs that are for our game partners, so that individuals can go and earn an item earn a in-game currency and then bring that to our decentralized exchange and swap that for Ethereum, or more particularly what we call Polyient Games particles, which is a fractional version of that NFT that we described earlier, where essentially it's a 1 to 1,000 fraction, where it's a liquid ERC20 token that will function as essentially a utility token and main trading pair within our ecosystem. And so that's really our way of helping establish liquidity, so that cryptocurrency investors are comfortable moving into the space, and that's going to really boost the all ships rise with the tide kind of approach. And B, obviously, if I earn an item in a game or an asset or a currency in a game, I have somewhere where I can bring that and actually cash out essentially my sweat equity that I put into the game. So that's really our approach from an ecosystem perspective, is how do we capture some of these DeFi concepts and attach them to gaming that really will kind of solve some of the issues associated with the NFT asset class. And our vision ultimately is that it's going to feed into healthy growth of some of these indie blockchain games that will ultimately feed into obviously a larger audience as technologies become less and less technical for the end user.
Wow. It's something that is really exciting, and I think that maybe our audience would like to know how they can get involved, or maybe tell us like a timeline of when that might be possible.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter at Polyient Games. So that's Polyient Games, spelled the normal way. So we're launching the sale for this PGFK asset that I described, which will function as our membership token, and then the fractional unit will be our utility token. We have essentially a discounted sale on August 4th, which will be very limited, and so we anticipate that going fast. And then on September 15th, we have the full sale, which will distribute it out to the community, help establish our early users that will kind of just segue into the support for our games. And so if you go to pgfk.polyient.games, again, Polyient, Polyient, that is our official pre-registration page, and so that just gives us a gauge of who's signing up, and it's we're tiering access to the sale itself, and so this is really kind of the first way that communities can get involved. Community members can get involved in the Polyient Games ecosystem. We have a live Discord, which you can find a link to on our Twitter page. You come by, say hi, ask any questions. But at the end of the day, we're really building this out as a community first ecosystem that's going to have a lot of substantial players involved. And I can name a few right now. Chainlink has already joined. We have group games like Axie Infinity and the Sandbox, and groups like Battle Racers, and we have a lot of cool announcements actually coming out in the next few weeks here relative to some of those more technical partners. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is help facilitate the growth of the ecosystem while really keeping our ear to the ground from an investment firm perspective, because I think a lot of groups, especially in 2017, 2016, that were investing heavily in blockchain startups, a lot of these funds are underwater now because they just didn't have the daily interaction with the market. And that's really what we hope to do and to help feed into our decision making, which ultimately we believe will help grow the industry as a whole.
Well, that's awesome. Craig, this has been a really good conversation so far. Do you have anything you want to give us in closing or any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate it, Ethan. This has been fantastic. And, I will say that we have rolling applications for our ecosystem. So if you're a startup building in the blockchain gaming or NFT space, feel free to reach out and submit an application. And, we look forward to meeting all the innovative teams out there.
All right. Well, great. Craig, thanks again. This has been a real pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, Ethan. You have a good one.
Thanks.